So, in your interventions, your 3 interventions, we see some different categories of factors. You have mentioned the material factors, the lack of means, the lack of tickets of bus or things like that, the lack of food, this kind of thing. One of the questions around that is the conditioning of that, because you have spoken also about responsabilization, implication of the family. So we could have a first exchange about this point, which is what are the solutions in the field of material means, and what do you think about the responsabilization that we can, which can accompany these material measures? We can begin with you if you want, Caroline.
Okay. So I'm speaking from the developed world, right? Wealthy world with very, very good public education system. I love the public education system in Canada. It's outstanding. But what we know now is that socio-economic status is the biggest predictor of whether or not you're going to make it. When we put income on top of the data of the dropouts, we learned that middle income and up, the dropout rate is 6 to 11%. But for the lowest income kids, it's 50 and 60%, and we are in North Winnipeg, where we have a large Aboriginal population, and the dropout rate there is 78%. Now, this is appalling, but this is true across Canada and the United States, all right? So what we did was we worked with the parents, and where we developed this in Regent Park was an extremely multicultural community. People from Bangladesh, people from Sri Lanka, people from Vietnam, people from China, very, very diverse. So we spoke to the people in their own languages. And the parents told us, when we showed them the vision, which they said education is key, employment is key. They wanted their children to graduate high school so that they could go to post-secondary so they could get a job, and they told us that they wanted a job also. So then when we took the lens down even further and spoke to the people, the kids themselves, this is when we learned the lack of academic support. How can someone who's never been, doesn't speak the language, help their child with homework? It's impossible. All right. So, but you ask about responsibility. Our program came from the bottom. The parents and the children identified this. They sign a contract to come into the program, to give us permission to collect data, because the program is results driven. We need to monitor credit accumulation and absenteeism. Those are our leading indicators. Our lagging indicators are the dropout rate, the graduation rate, and post-secondary participation. They sign a contract, they come to tutoring. We offer tutoring 4 nights a week, but the students have to come for tutoring. We hand out bus tickets to the students every 2 weeks, or a lunch voucher, but they only get that if they attend school. So accountability is built in. They come for mentoring, and the mentoring we came up with for this group was in the early years of high school, grades 9 and 10, we do group mentoring so that they build social skills, negotiation, team building, collaboration, build a support network. When they get into grade 11 and 12, we work with them on what's their passion, where do they see themselves working, what careers would they like to know about, would they like to know about the trades, would they like to, are they interested in healthcare, and then we work with corporations. You see, we partnered, we did this not with government money, because you cannot innovate with government dollars, because you can make huge mistakes. So with a solid partnership with the school, we created this program and measured our data, and the kids actually told us in our first year, when we asked them, we did our focus groups and we asked the students, why don't you come to tutoring? And you know, the boys said, if you want us there, you have to make it mandatory. So we said, it's mandatory. You see, they want boundaries, they want limits. So we surround these students with this support from 5:30 on in partnership with the school. And I need to explain one key role. There is a key role, and that's the student parent support worker. This is a paid position, and each student parent support worker oversees 50 students, 50. And they monitor their attendance, credit accumulation, hand out the bus tickets, and form a solid relationship and hold the students accountable. And one of the students said to me, they're like a coach and a referee. They support them, encourage them. They might also say, perhaps you should take a look at that. If you do that, have you thought about the consequences? But in the end, it's up to the student. The scholarship, I was raised $1,000 per student per year, up to $4,000 for a hand up to post-secondary. And 5 years after we started this program, the dropout rate went from 56% to 11%, and post-secondary attendance went from 20% to 83%. And we have now, as I said, replicated it in 11. There are 11 programs across the country, and there are 4,300 students getting these supports right now, producing similar results. And each community that has this program, you have to make the program tailored to the community. The context, as Aisha said, is extremely important. In the North Winnipeg program, the students do have dinner. We feed them. And when I saw this the first time, and I asked, I see you're giving they told me, yes, in some cases, it's the first or only meal of the day. So you make the program unique to the student, but the student must be responsible. They have to work hard, or they won't pass. So they learn discipline, setting goals, work now, play later, but what they respond to is being surrounded by caring and support.
Thank you very much. We understand, among a lot of things, that from the material problems, we go to the psychological problems, through responsibility, accountability, and I think it's one of the lessons of your experience. Maybe, Aisha, you could give us an African focus about those processes.
First of all, the education system, especially basic education, it is the responsibility of governments. So it is up to any minister, because I used to be a minister, I'm still working with ministers. They have to have a vision. They have to believe in their mission, transform it into a policy. That policy has to be prepared with the involvement of all stakeholders. Then they have to be able to mobilize funds. And we all know that the funds, more than 90% come from within the country. And then the rest is coming from outside, multi and bilaterals. But if you do not have a good product, who's going to buy it? Nobody. Therefore, you have to have a very good policy, good program, projects, actions, activities. And now, because we have to talk about how to bring back the kids that have dropped out, I will focus on girls. So for the kids that have been married before the age, we have to do a lot of advocacy at community level. What I did when I was a minister, because we did an action research and found out that the factors that are really putting girls outside of the education system, it's that early marriage and pregnancy. So what we did in my department was to track the girls starting 5th year. So every year, at the end of the year, 5th year, all the structures from up to down, we will track the girls in the classrooms and take their names. And at the beginning of the 6th year, we come again, we count them. If they are not present, we invite the parents to come. And I personally tell them, give me back my daughter, because the girl is mine. You have put her in school, now she is ours. And it works. In 1991, we were able to save 35 of them. They came back. And some of them are doctors today, pharmacy and whatever. As for pregnancy, what we did in my department was to lobby for 2 years. I myself had to use radio rural, you know, when we use the local languages so that the communities will understand. The national radio, the television, for 2 years to lobby the parents and the teachers. They did not want it. They said, well, if you bring them back, you are going to, encourage other girls to get pregnant. I said, well, come on. Parents, did you tell these girls their sexual maturation? No. Did we do it at school? No. So we have to share this responsibility. It is a core responsibility we have to assume. Therefore, they have to come back to school. Then they started nodding, you know. When I saw the heads nodding, I said, it's time to take a decision. I took the decision. They are going to be back to school. And in 3 years' time, we were able to save 125 girls, which is a lot. And FAWE, in 1994, used this experience to convey all male ministers to come to a meeting and discuss this experience. Therefore, as of today, all African countries have this policy, bringing back pregnant adolescents so that they will be able to continue their studies. There is another way of bringing back dropout to school using the non-formal approach. In special centers, we call them NAFA. NAFA means it profits to everybody. In these centers, you have to negotiate with the parents so that they will give you a location that you will renovate. You have to negotiate with the kids themselves, boys and girls, so that they will come to this center, get a basic education. On top of it, they will have some skills training. Women, you know, the tie-dye, this is what we call tie-dye. They come and learn how to do it. You have also menuiserie, I don't know how to say it in English anyway. It's carpentry. So they learn carpentry and other skills. And if they want to go back to there is links between the formal and the non-formal education. So that if from these centers, they want to go back to the formal education, they have that possibility. So this is a way of bringing back dropout to the formal education.
Thank you very much. Just one remark to say that you have said that we don't have to oppose the responsibility of the state and the responsibility of the community and the family. I think it's an important idea.
We have to work together. You see, the responsibility of a minister is to know how to negotiate. You know, the first thing to do is to negotiate with your own staff. Then the teacher unions. Then the communities. You know how teacher unions are strong. I don't know if they are strong here, but in my country, they are very strong. So whenever there is a problem, I did something special in Guinea. I redeployed 1,806 teachers from secondary to primary, from cities to the villages. How did I do it? I brought in the teacher unions. I invited them to a meeting and said, I have two solutions. I have more than 1,800 teachers who are getting their salaries without working. How are we going to solve the problem? I have two solutions. It's either to fire them or to send them to where the work is give them some incentives for éloignement, the distance they will. They said to me, we'd rather see them continue working where the work is. This is how we did it. You negotiate. Day and night, you have to negotiate.
Thank you very much. If we have time, I will have, it would be a pleasure to give you some European and French focus and examples about the same kind of things. I think we have a lot of things to share between continents about those measures. But first, I would like Mercedes, pardon, to explain us more deeply how works the program called Yo Si Puedo. Maybe in Cuba, but also in other countries, to understand your solutions for making come back the pupils.
First of all, it's important 2 or 3 steps in terms of preventing dropout and take the student back. Literacy for adult people, but opportunity for continue the studies. Because in the way that they increase their study, they understand better that is a need. But at the same time, it should be together with teacher training in order that they can deal with this situation that they have. Together with this, we understand that in the school system, and we apply in our program, a diagnosis process. The diagnosis process that consists on to know about the students, the community, and the situation that they have, and their culture, because it's important. We live in a multicultural world, because there is not only one culture in a country. And if we don't know the tradition, their feelings, how they feel about the culture, we cannot help them in the learning process. That's why in our programs we take into account the cultural aspect, mainly in the case of the linguistic situation. That is one of the problems in some cases because of the multilingual countries that have the multicultural countries. They have difficulties in understanding, and that is a reason to drop out the school. Even the diagnosis process, we did all the elements. We have to negotiate which is the better language that we are going to use in the literacy program. That's why we have different versions of the Yo Si Puedo program, not only in Spanish, 9 in Spanish, because although a group of countries speak Spanish, they are different from one country to another, and which has English version different from one country to another, in New Zealand, in Canada, and Nigeria, Namibia, but they are different, okay? We have to take into account the peculiarities in the point of the linguistic phenomenon. And in the case of the native languages, because I'm sure that most of the dropout belongs to the poor people and indigenous people, because that is a reality that we live in those countries. And most of the cases is that they know their native language, but when you change to the official language, they have difficulties in understanding. And if they do not understand what's happening at school, they drop out. That's why we have to take into consideration the linguistic situation. And for us, it's very important. The elements that we detected in this diagnosis process should be taken into account in the program that we apply. And it happened that in some cases, the program have not nothing to do with the people that is receiving the program, and they go out because they do not understand. Understanding is the main problem that in some cases they have. In some communities, not always is the financial problem because they want to go to school. But if they do not understand what happened in the school, they go out. That's one of the things. The syllabus or curriculum is very important. In our program, we have a link of the cultural aspect of the country together with the academic point. That's why the diagnosis could not be only from the academic point of view. We have to know which are the difficulties that the student had. We have to know which is the problem that we have to solve in that sense. But at the same time, we have to know how they are, how do they feel, how do they live, in order to know. Another point that is important is the interaction. Our program is an audiovisual program, but we have an element that we call facilitator. That is the one that is together with the students. And the interaction between the facilitator and the participant that we call, or in the case of a school, the interaction between the teacher and the student help to know which are the real problems that they have in order that help them to solve this. If the teacher don't have the real communication with the student, they don't know what happened, they don't know what they think, and they cannot help them. And in some cases, the problem is not academic problem. They drop out because they have other problems they cannot solve, and they need help in this term.
Thank you very much.